Okay, we are here from Shred Shack Radio. Pat Gessner in the studio, hanging out with Camden and Sabrina from Seven Kingdoms. Guys, thanks for calling in. We appreciate it.
Oh, thank you very much for having us.
Thank you for having us.
No problem. New album, Zenith, just came out a couple days ago. We had a chance to listen to it in the studio. Fantastic stuff. We've been fans of you guys for a while, so it's always good to hear new material from you guys. We know that you guys have really relied on Kickstart with your crowdfunding. How has that been working out for you, especially with this last release?
I definitely feel like we've seen more support through Kickstarter than we have through any other situation, any kind of record label. I feel like Kickstarter is where you find out how many fans you really have.
Yeah. When you guys actually put the stuff through Kickstarter instead of going through a record label, what types of freedoms does that allow you guys to have as opposed to going through the traditional sources?
Well, I mean, it's just there's usually when there's a traditional label involved, they're kind of telling you how they want you to sell your record and what they want you to do in order to do that. So you have less of that. To do it independently, a lot more freedom and choice. You can take on a little bit more risk that the label wouldn't want to do. Like, for instance, we wouldn't be able to. No label would provide us with a double lime green splatter vinyl right now. And so we can go out and do that and afford to do so and just hold and ship those ourselves.
With the material that you guys have made over the past couple of years, I know that you guys have been putting out, a steady release of EPs, records. Do you find it easier to release the material as it just comes to you, or wait till you have enough to make a record?
I feel like the reason why we've gone back and forth with doing EPs over albums is because we wanted to provide content in the time that it still takes us to record the album. I feel like the EPs were basically keeping everybody updated, and we didn't just disappear. We kept trying to keep ourselves slightly relevant, even though we know that a lot of times when you release EPs, people are less likely to listen to them. But the fan base that continually follows you will always be hungry for new music. So most of the time, you'll get most of your viewership and your listening that happens during a full album release as opposed to an EP.
When you guys actually were making the stuff for Zenith, I heard that you wrote most of this while you were on tour with Unleash the Archers. I actually got a chance to see that show when you guys came to New York. And just, is it harder to write material while you're on the road as opposed to in a studio, or do you feel like the ideas come more freely in random places?
Well, so most of the stories were written out, and the music portion was written before we left for the first tour, and then we had some vocal melodies picked out beforehand, and then after the tour, after I had so many shows underneath my belt, that's when I came and I recorded the actual vocal melodies and the main parts for me. I feel like being on the road definitely inspired me and taught me to be, the next level me when it comes to singing. It pushed us all in a direction. So I feel like being on tour is important for you to have some sort of progression.
I just want to say this out loud. I know that you guys, while you were touring with Unleash the Archers, I've met Brittany a few times through the industry, and she's a fantastic person to be around and to talk to. I can't help but imagine that there was some influence in her when I saw the first preview for the album, and it was Universal Terrestrial.
Yeah. So Brittany is a phenomenal singer, and I have throughout my whole entire life not been into metal. I was not brought up in that genre at all. So I had to do what was called vocal study my whole life because I didn't really have a lot of money to pay for vocal lessons. So I've learned throughout my life that when you're presented with someone who's extremely talented and they're teaching you how to do something that you're struggling to do, the best thing you can do is shut up and listen. So I learned a lot from her. And it was an important lesson for me to become a better singer, to actually experience, like her and Flora Jensen, I would have to say, are my favorite belting queens. They have immense ability in that department, and I fell in love with Flora when I saw her perform with Nightwish for the first time. But it's something different when it's in front of you and you can hear it and like digest where it's coming from. So yeah, she was Brittany is an amazing vocalist, and she definitely inspired me. But a lot of that is just me growing up and people hearing me learning how to use my voice in the genre that I'm singing in now.
I just think it's funny. The first time that I ever talked to her, she had just come back from like a space camp, and she was wearing a NASA shirt. And I just thought it was very funny that your first song that released for the new album was Universal Terrestrial. And I was like...
Yeah, I actually have I have a NASA shirt too, and me and Scott would notoriously wear it on the same day without choreographing it when we were on tour.
Because I know you guys are based around Florida. Are you close to Cape Canaveral? Are you close to any of the spaces there?
Yeah, so we're actually a couple hours away, but based on, where we are, we can actually see when the shuttles take off. We can actually watch in our backyard, so it's actually really cool. Like, it's a really cool thing, just like walk outside and like, oh, there's, NASA, oh, there's SpaceX.
I was literally just in Palm Bay yesterday, and I had to leave before my friends could tell me, yeah, there's a launch tonight, you want to stay? And I'm like, I gotta catch a flight. It killed me.
Damn, that sucks. I'm sorry you missed that.
It's you know what? I imagine there will be more times I'll get to check that out, because that just seems like something amazing. But back to the music here. When you guys have been putting out the material for this, I know that, like, obviously you guys started off in like the late 2000s. You started with the material based on Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire. It's a much different world now than it is back then. Do you feel like there's like a hatred towards Game of Thrones material now?
I think there's a love and a hate based on the way that the end of the show went. As someone who's paid attention through, having to write, my songs influenced, mostly from the book, and then I watch how the TV series goes. I feel like people were very unsatisfied with the end, but because it was rushed. I mean, it was always supposed to be Cersei was the monster who turned into the human, and Dany was the loved one who turns into the monster. There was traction for that, but because they did it too fast, people were pissed about it. So it's like one of those things where there is the hatred about it, but there's people that loved it, like still love it. Like there is no taking away how much people love that TV series and the books.
Because you guys have definitely expanded your reach and your categories of songs anyway. My favorite of yours is based off of Lovecraft anyway. But
thank you.
But when you have songs on the albums like this, though, do you base it entirely off of the book material, or do you take any influence from what's been presented on screen?
Some of it was presented, was inspired by the TV series-ish, sometimes for whatever reason, I'm a visual person, so it's easier for me to write better about people once I see them portrayed. Because sometimes some of the actors and actresses that they chose for that really bring the book character to life. Once you see someone who is actually portraying Joffrey absolutely perfectly and Cersei absolutely perfectly, you can't unsee that. But a lot of for example, Volunkar, which is the prophecy for Cersei, I actually was so deep into the books and the TV series that I was actually watching people who dissected every single story and cliff note and stuff like that, to the point where what meant the most to certain people about the little brother prophecy. So I was just really trying to make sure I nailed it all the way down to what fans thought was the most importance about it. Because it's for me, if you're gonna take the Volunkar prophecy, which kind of gets glossed over in the TV series, it's actually very important for Dany and for Cersei. It kind of foretells both of their endings in the same thing.
It's a really complicated material, but you managed to make it into a really, like, Volunkar is one of the highlights absolutely for me on the album, so it's really a powerful way of, like, going about that material. Do you find it hard to, when you have material so, like, you know, deep in lore and, you know, with so much material behind it, do you find it hard to kind of narrow it down to, like, a one-song structure?
No, I feel like the best thing to do is to focus on something impactful. Like, for example, Kingslayer literally is just the moment when Jamie earns his name. The Water Dance is based off of multiple different situations that happened through Arya's life that got her to where she was. Like, you know, she had to witness her entire family being slaughtered and losing everything, and then being able to come back and take that power back. So it was, hers specifically was a moments adding into it, but even when Bran falls from the tower and after the fall, it's literally after everything that happens to him after he fell. So it depends. A lot of stories add into one song, or it's just a moment for me.
Well, there you go. With the material that we have on the album here, it's really good stuff, and a lot of it did carry over from EPs. The Water Dance actually did carry over from a previous EP, I remember. And when you have all the material here, it just makes me think, like, is there more material than what you've put on the disc already, or with the constant releases, do you find it, like, much easier to just release things as you get them?
Well, we always have what we call the Wristbank. The guys always have partially pieced together songs of ideas that may not have made it to this one, and they just liked the riffs so much they weren't willing to give them away or to put them in the trash bin. So we always have things kind of partially set aside, and then I think it's good to take space in between, so when you come back and revisit it, it re-inspires you.
That's good. All right, so with the album out now, what is the next step for the band? What are you guys up to these days to help get it out there?
For us right now, it's the exposure. Right now, we just signed with Distortion Music Group, and they're doing distribution for us right now, and they have a reach grander than we could possibly do by ourselves. And so them getting us out there where people can hear us. We're putting out music videos. Thankfully, because of Kickstarter, we had it fully funded so we can actually do a video for every song. So there'll be more music videos coming out for each song.
That's
and
great.
We have applied for multiple different tours, and we're just kind of waiting to see what happens. We're hoping for 70,000 tons of metal. We're hoping for some festival gigs. So it's just everything's in the giant marinating stew pot right now of possibilities.
We have this tradition we do with every band. We just ask them a quick lightning round of questions. Just answer them as quickly as possible, and we'll get a chance to know you guys a little bit better. Okay, here we go. Chicken or steak?
Chicken.
Steak.
Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Black Sabbath, Dio or Ozzy?
Dio.
Who would win in an arm wrestling match, Lemmy or God?
I want to say Lemmy, but God probably.
That's a trick question. Lemmy is God. And finally, if Seven Kingdoms was stranded on a desert island, which member would be eaten first?
I would have to say Keith, because he likes to engage all animals.
Sabrina would eat us all first.
No. I mean, I do get hungry, but...
Oh my God. Seven Kingdoms' new album, Zenith, is out right now. Please pick it up. Please give them some love. Check them out on tour whenever they're available next in your area. Please give these guys all the love in the world. Seven Kingdoms, thank you guys so much for calling in. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you.